Hello, 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 TV land. Hello, 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 hello. I'm back. What do we got here? Got a few of you. Yes, yes, indeed. Gator Dog billionaires do suck. Absolutely, 100%. Even I would even assume that even people that are like, you know, um, all for many aspects of capitalism are probably still think billionaires suck. Even them, I think, even people that would be more on that side of things. Maybe not a narco-capitalist. Maybe they're down for just billionaire technocrats. I have no idea. I'm not sure. Just let it all roam free. Let's see. Let's see how many lives get trampled over for progress or what have you. Um, that's what's funny about it too. That's kind of what I've been kind of just thinking about more, and it pisses me off. It pisses me off. I mean, the things that piss me off are just like the most unreachable, unattainable things. Like it's just impossible shit. Then and I'm living in a world of pipe dreams half the time. So, um, nah, I have to fight that inside myself. Um, okay, so this is what I was thinking of. This is why I called it uh, technology billionaires and other members of SEELE. If you're a weeb like me, well not a weeb, but an otaku like me, you know what SEELE is. You've probably watched Neon Genesis Evangelion, and essentially what that organization or that group of billionaires was attempting to do is the same thing that the billionaires that are alive and breathing today are also attempting to do, but in a much less fictional, over the top way. I mean, it depends on how you define that, I guess. They should at least pay their percentage of taxes, at least trickle down. Shit is a lie. Yeah, on this house, it's been a lie. It's always a lie. It's always been a lie. Trickle down. It's fucking dumb as fuck. Um, but what I mean by that, because man, I'm trying not to spoil anything. Well, you don't. Okay, it's not that big of a spoiler. It kind of is. Let's just say the members of SEAL in Neon Genesis Evangelion are trying to achieve immortality in a very, very complicated way. And they're trying to achieve more than immortality. Like, immortality is not even good enough. They, they are seeking to go beyond that. It's not about living forever. It's also about maintaining that kind of status of what the equivalent of a billionaire is on a metaphysical playing field. Um, but the what's been kind of going through my head because I'm trying to like try not to get like driven too far in certain directions because it's pointless. Um, but I was just thinking about how many like projects are in existence um, that are essentially not very well discussed, seemingly science fiction side projects that a lot of these billionaires, whether it's Musk or you know, Altman or Bezos, whatever. A lot of these guys pour money into a bunch of differing types of like extension tech, different avenues to achieve immortality through the uploading of the mind, through everything from cryogenics to slicing essentially parts of the human brain digitally and then uploading all the synapses and all possible connections in that brain to replicate it as a model which, some may think that that's all it will take to essentially copy the mind. There is a lot of really weird products out there, a lot of machines, a lot of there's a lot of tech that's even for the purposes of retaining and, well, extending biological life. That many of these billionaires will pour millions into, and it's amusing in the worst way possible to think that none of that money is actually going toward making the average human live longer. Um, that's not the intention that's being driven. It's not there. There's no reason to get excited about um a technology or some kind of medicine that like somehow eradicates certain types of conditions, or somehow extends life. They discover more and more about how to slow uh, degradation and regression, or whatever it's called. I see news like that, and I go like, yeah, I mean that's really interesting on a scientific level, on a STEM level. It's like really cool. It's really fascinating and all, but you're not going to get it. You're not getting it. Even if you live long enough, because things are being created pretty exponentially. Even if you live long enough to exist in a world in which it exists, like that method is available, you're not getting it. That's I can almost guarantee every single one of the people that are in my small audience, you are not getting it. It's not going to be for you. I've always been told you don't become a millionaire from being honest. No, you usually become a millionaire or a billionaire from being self-serving. And one of the things that I find interesting, well, like, it's like both, it kind of fed into why people wanted to go as far as to become billionaires. Why just like, a world, why it had to just keep escalating. And I've also been thinking about death, in the sense that death has been highly pooled into the non-metaphysical and the material world, in the sense that, like, on a scientific materialist sort of perspective, death is the ceasing of the function of your brain, and then you go bye-bye, and that's it, right? And there are people that can, that proclaim otherwise. I would say the vast majority of the human population disagrees with that notion. I'm not saying they're correct, but I can almost guarantee the vast majority of the human population disagrees. But it has placed this sort of doubt in their mind that makes them oftentimes question the value or validity of any action they even take. It put like a worm in so many people's brain. And it's not very productive one. I mean, I know, but and there's a proclamation toward, oh, well, it's truth. But there are many other lies we tell ourselves that we don't get rid of because of how productive they are, or how they don't lead to utter eradication of ourselves or our individual lives. It's sort of like a meta version of why people don't even why there's so many people out there that are living really terrible lives and are dealing with crippling depression, but and this is just like philosophical speak, whatever, and haven't like done a backflip. It's that fear, right? That's ingrained in you. That that programming, they might call it, for self-preservation, even if you have an almost disgust for it. In any case, that brain worm caused, I think, partially created the true believers, the the intellectual, not highly always, but the intellectual, competent, charismatic, conniving, true believers of brain death is death, and there is nothing else. Now, when you have that kind of true believer, and I don't mean like somebody that like believes that what is known to be a fact. I'm talking about somebody that is essentially driven, their choices, everything they work toward, everything is being driven by the need for immortality in the face of this material oblivion. And of course you have plenty of people that believe this, that brain death is death, and they have all kinds of interesting philosophical ideas, approaches to it. They'll kind of think about other forms of immortality. There's a classic or the type of immortality associated with, as if you're a Warhammer nerd, like the Adeptus Mechanicus, the idea that knowledge is immortality. And when knowledge is destroyed, that is true death. But as long as knowledge is retained and saved, that knowledge and the people associated with that knowledge, or the knowledge finders or creators, are then immortalized, even if not by name, because names are just a faulty, almost like unit measurement type shit. Anyway, so it's funny because even the well, at least in the case of post heresy, even the Adeptus Mechanicus, but actually pre heresy, because they were still into the Omnissiah. But if you're talking about the Adeptus Mechanicus, you're talking about a group that still has this kind of like this metaphysical notion of a thing, a greater power that exists beyond myself. Like, I am just a unit of measurement, and my goal is to be a functional unit of measure, like a unit in this grand universal cosmic gear that is the attainment, collection of knowledge, and the improvement of like efficiency of data transfer and everything else, right? So even then, and they're all about, like, a lot of them are about like, get rid of your flesh, remove the trappings of the meat, and all this sort of stuff. Yet they don't live to be immortal. That's what's interesting. They don't like, the primary goal of a lot of Adeptus Mechanicus is definitely not being immortal. Now, a lot of them will extend their lives, but the reason they generally do is so they can continue their research and then establish more knowledge, and thus make themselves more or less like, well, I would say philosophically immortal, but for them it's a little more than that. Like the Omnissiah is like a thing. Optimize the construct power and computing efficiency. Yeah, optimize the construct. Exactly. So it's just like this kind of, like, our existence is a computer, and we keep having to replace the parts and get faster and better, and we have to replace things that stop working, and because the machine, the great machine that is life and its ability to create knowledge and unlock answers, is like the great machine, like, but anyway, sorry, it just went off on a kind of tangent there. But what I think is so fucking pathetic about some of these techno-futurist tech billionaires. What makes them so goddamn pathetic is that a lot of them are living for two things. There's two very pathetic things that motivate them. Um, but I feel like it's a backup plan. So I think the backup plan for a lot of these guys is immortality through legacy. Right? That's like a philosophical backup plan. But it's definitely not good enough. Definitely not good enough. And I think you kind of have to have a somewhat materialist, utilitarian for the self, and almost nihilistic, like pessimistic nihilism perspective to be okay with the amount of harm it would take to attain the amount of power in the conditions we exist in, within capitalism and with this corporatism and everything else, right? And all of it to attain some kind of immortality. And I feel like it's like the classic of like, I was competent, capable enough to climb to this position, so thus I am the chosen one. I am the bringer of the Promethean fire. I shall become a god amongst men. It's delusion. And on a like a real world, like a material level, I think about the amount of money that gets poured into fueling an engine that ultimately leads to some billionaires wanting to be immortal. That's fucking insane. This isn't like a conspiracy theory, right? What do people want? They want to be healthy and live a long life, right? The best the average human hopes for is living to be like, 80s or 90s and living a somewhat pretty healthy life up till then, till the body just kind of goes, I'm done. And then it's over. And then that's how, the average human achieves immortality through philosophical notions or religious notions or spiritual notions and things like that, right? Because there's this sort of built-in sense of like self-preservation that's constant, continuous, right? That extends even. They're pathetic because everything they do is driven by fear, exactly, of life, of death, of powerlessness, of their own irrelevance. That's why power and fear are their chosen tools. Yep. It would eventually get old as fuck being in existence. How long would it take for one just to get tired and unplug? I have theories on that. I'm not going to get into it. I always thought it was interesting if you were immortal, like say you had a soul or whatever, but your memory was finite and you kept it finite. So then after a while you would forget the years that have passed. So then you only remember like a certain thousands of years. And so previous experiences are forgotten in time or to memory. And so then you just keep redoing things you think are new, but they're the same old things. I'm already that tired. Yeah, but I feel you. But in any case, but yeah, so that's what them like fucking just like fucking with me is right now. Part of the reason this world has as much suffering as it does is because a machine needs to be maintained to allow a select few to become immortal or attempt to become immortal. Why would that be a conspiracy? Wouldn't most human beings, if put in a position in which they have almost infinite resources, what would they do with it? They would want to figure out how to be immortal. Once they start getting sick, how do I stop being sick? How do I stop my muscles from ever aching? My memory's getting not as good. How do I stop that? I have infinite resources. I should be able to stop this. And it's kind of weird to think about, right? Because then you go, wow, what if some of these billionaires aren't being motivated by like greed? They're being motivated by fear. They're afraid. And all because a handful of people were either born to privilege, high intelligence, high competency, right time, right place, very driven, willing to do all sorts of unethical things to achieve what they convince themselves is human progress. And everyone's just suffering because they want to be immortal. I mean, do a little research. These guys have all kinds of stuff. I mean, they'll claim it's for like human progress, life extension. Near like a computer eventual singularity, immortality type bullshit. That's the thing, active. They don't believe it's a vain. They don't believe it's a vain endeavor. They live their lives to maximize as much wealth in order to funnel it into anything and everything they can. But they can't put it all there, right? Because then otherwise their machine won't continue to produce more resources, more money, right? There is no money in creating something that supposedly will eventually lead to some kind of immortality for the average person to give a shit about. So it's so crazy, like, to think that, like, all this like constant talk online or whatever, like, just, oh, capitalism, capitalism, capitalism. It's not some like machine that's just automatically driving itself. It's being driven by people at the top that are terrified of death. Meanwhile, every other human has to be terrified of death. Well, not necessarily terrified. Some of us are resigned to some aspects of it. But many humans, I would say the average human, is so terrified of death that they have to find ways to live with it, which is funny. But these billionaires, they don't want to live with it, and they think they have the ability to produce something that makes it so they don't have to live with the notion or idea. One reason may be because no matter how many resources, no matter what, the fact that they have everything, anything at their arm's reach, there's nothing that makes that fear of death go away for them. It looms over them. And what does a terrified animal do in order to self-preserve? It'll eat through its foot. It'll kill other things. It'll climb a mound of skulls to survive. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. Because if somebody has, like, a crippling fear of death, they have like some kind of panic disorder because of this thought of eventual death. What is how does someone get treated for that? They get told, well, maybe you need, like, they get basically pushed into a couple of directions. Philosophical ideas that can bring them comfort, religious, spiritual ideas that can bring them comfort with this notion, this proclaimed inevitability. But when you have that many resources, you don't have to do that. You say, no, I'm going to live forever. Or at least as long as I can. Combine that with some kind of like nihilistic worldview about like ultimately like it doesn't matter how many people suffer. It doesn't matter. Like none of that stuff matters because, you know, once they're dead, they're gone. And even if you live a good life, once you're dead, you're gone. So what truly matters is to become immortal. Maybe one of the things, one of the tragedies of, and I know a lot of people would disagree with me. They'd be like, no, it's truth and all this. And I get it. I'm not saying, but what if one of the biggest problems that we created for ourselves as humans in the modern age is the widespread notion that there is nothing after death? And that kind of memed itself over and over through the course of many generations. And it expanded and expanded. Right? With the knowledge of the biological reality of our bodies and brains and we start seeing what we feel, what a lot of people feel or fear is evidence of this truth. Now, I don't believe it's true, but that's just my belief. So, and my beliefs are just nonsense that makes me feel better about existing. But what if it was one of those discoveries that just like fucked us? Or fuck the average human. It scared the average human into complacency and fear to continue and be comfortable and avoid pain. And maybe it put the most privileged humans on earth in fear to find a solution because they have the means and they have the motivation. I can't think of another reason. Surely, someone that's a billionaire has tackled with the notion that they're going to die and all this effort, all this accumulation is going to go to just somebody else, family member, or whatever. And there's a good chance they may squander it, destroy your legacy. If you care about legacies, which I think a lot of them do. What other goal would they have? To make the decision to focus on the supposed human progress? Over just the actual sustainability of the people that already exist on the planet. The mitigating of unproductive suffering on the planet itself for the human beings that are currently alive and will be alive in the next few days, next few hours. Do you think that their goal is to create some immortality-based technological utopia where everyone will thrive and all will be liberated from the shackles of death? No way. No way. And imagine this too. Imagine you're the tech billionaire that is pouring money into such tech, such things. And then you have millionaires, multi-millionaires below you, helping you, businesses, corporations funding this, perpetuating whatever machine already exists in order to keep that money funneling toward the top so that that money can get poured into this goal of immortality. And those people are being told by the billionaire, isn't this what it's all about? Immortality. And then they agree. There's essentially the more conspiracy based term, a cabal of fear, a cabal of the fear of death, the cabal of fear of irrelevance. Oh yeah, what's going on, Khalil? You okay? Hope you're all right, bud. You have a cat on your keyboard. Agricultural village with Wi-Fi? I don't know how that would work, but that sounds cool. It's mind-blowing. Because, considering the amount of resources the many multimillionaires and billionaires have in this world, I doubt they just think, oh, I want to just be rich and have a hedonistic lifestyle that I will accept ultimately ends with my death. You think they're gonna think that? I'm gonna be greedy and just like accumulate resources and be so powerful and high status and manipulate all these mortal beings just so that I die as a mortal. You think that's what they're gonna think? You think like someone with psychopathic traits and a grandiose narcissism, do you think that person's just going to be okay with, oh well, eventually I die? Do you think they're going to be satisfied with that notion? Or are they going to do everything and anything to combat that idea? What do you think is the logical step there? It's not that hard to figure out. Now the issue becomes this. And that's why it's such a terrifying thing for a lot of the millionaires and billionaires out there. What happened with the whole United Healthcare CEO thing? You can't control everything. Oh, well, that's fine by me. But even if there was this discovery, we'd still be dead anyway. That's what's funny. Even if they discover, uh, even if they discover how to live forever, you're not getting it. I heard something fascinating that I posted on the survey yesterday about how society economically encourages narcissistic and sociopathic traits. Yeah, because of the fear of death, I would assume. Trying to put myself in a billionaire's shorts hard. I can't. It's interesting. Yeah, that's what's so a lot of the suffering in the world might possibly be and this is my schizo brain thinking like ultimately coming from this fear, this need to self-sustain, to self-preserve, but it's gotten to the point where it's out of hand and it's being controlled by the fear of a handful of billionaires and multimillionaires. I don't think that's that far-fetched. I don't think that's that big a conspiracy. Even if they're all working individually for their own, because of their own fear, and they all have different beliefs as to how they may attain the sort of forever life. That could definitely be an incredibly powerful driving force. When hasn't it been an incredibly powerful driving force for any living thing to want to stay alive? Well, yeah, I agree there, Shadow. Yeah, so if we were to be able to change how our society rewards its citizens, we could produce. Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. But that's what's so funny is like this box that's been opened of like the commonality between most people, that there's this now there's because of our understanding of what the human brain is to a significant degree, even the average person, unless they're very disconnected from any kind of medical science or any kind of information that can prove otherwise to them, most human beings will always have that. No matter how religious they are, they're going to know this is a meat brain. There's no way, like, there's no, like, physical evidence of a soul. Right? And that knowledge, there's just no way to put it back. There's no way to put it back. So how do we manage that? How do we create a society that has that thought in the back of their mind constantly, and that ultimately all their actions and everything that they are will just disappear? How does that idea get put back in the box? I don't think it does. I think throughout human history, there's always been individuals that believed as much, right? And there was people that have lived such terrible lives that they hoped as much. Or they were in such fear of something like hell. And of course, even that immortality was for the rich and the privileged in human civilization. They had the greatest access to the clergy, the leader, spiritual assurance of all those people around them. But that's what's funny, is that's that one piece of education that the humans were just not philosophically ready to be faced with. Human beings were, on an individual level, not on a societal or human civilization level, more existentially reassured previous to this. Now there's this constant existential doubt, even in the most normie of folks. It's fucking infuriating. Thinking about, like, being in such a position in which that many resources are available to you and all you are driven by is fear. All you are driven by is, I must thrive. I must self-preserve at any cost. My genetic lineage, my children, people that are worthy and like me, those people should live forever. At any cost. How do you convince them of otherwise? That's ultimately what it comes down to in many ways. How do you convince billionaires that are interested and fueled by this fear that they have very little to fear? Or that the fear itself is of even less value than what will probably be their unavoidable death. Yeah, it's called rebranding, right, Faxon? Well, that's not going to happen, Gator Dog. And you don't have to destroy your ego to come to terms with these notions. For a lot of people, it just takes some faith or belief in something. Oh, I would say rewind this one, Mile. You might like what I'm talking about. I'm already lost in thought. So how could you? How can you convince them? Their egos are already destroyed. They're emptier than we are. Well, might be the case. Yeah, because like if you think about it, if a psychopath who wants to perpetuate that wants to self-preserve and will do it at any cost and has only cognitive empathy that they can use to manipulate others in mass, if they're that bad, right? And they still have this like concern with ceasing to exist. Why wouldn't do what why wouldn't essentially somebody of that kind become a multinational murderer? Convincing billionaires that they have to stop being so afraid of death. Yes, it is, Frago. Yeah, of course, you kind of have to be a shit person. But how do you convince even a shit person that the means to immortality is either not feasible or um, it's not a requirement? Make them believe. I don't care if they believe. I would prefer if a billionaire had in a near death experience in which they see the light of God and they become religious in some manner, and then they start like contributing all their money to helping the poor or some shit like that. No, yeah, Faxon's 100% on that one. I don't care what it would take. I don't care if it's just self aggrandizing fucking cope. How do you get them to stop being so scared of dying? That's one of the only problems. Like if you get this idea that's in my stupid head, heroic doses of psychedelics. Yeah, maybe that's what it takes. Maybe instead of and this isn't Minecraft, but maybe instead of doing any physical harm to any people of that kind that have made decisions that just have that kind of power. Just convince them of into taking a variety of psychedelics and put them in the same room as the people that they're willing to sacrifice. Wait, I'm looking at live chat. No, that would be great, Shadow. That would be great. But that's a good end goal for everybody's kids. Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%, Shadow. The problem is that all those good kids, all those good children you'll raise, they're probably not going to become billionaires. And they're probably going to be kept under the boot of the billionaires that are living and are afraid of death, so much so that they'll continue churning a machine that will funnel money into this fear that they're trying to avoid this situation. They're intending to avoid at whatever cost. And I think maybe it requires a certain degree of suffering or trauma to. Like, I guess you need a billionaire that's gone through so much trauma that they're interested in somehow turning that money into something far less selfish. Yeah, that's why he was just trying to self-preserve, Vaxon. More self-preservation. Everyone's so scared of dying. No, but that's what I was thinking, Active. Like, what if you got a billionaire and you you made them witness the suffering that some of their decision making in their quest to attain immortality has done while on psychedelics and other things. Would that be enough to rattle through? The Clockwork Orange, a motherfucker. Would that be enough? Would inducing trauma within them by forcing them to face the trauma they create, would that be enough? While on psychedelics? Who knows, right? Somehow overwrite that fear of death. Yeah, but that's what I mean, Shadow. If you had all the means in the world to create something that can make it so that you don't die, or you believe you won't die, because of the infinite, well, seemingly infinite, like, almost infinite, like, amount of resources you could just pour into shit. Would you be willing to sacrifice everything and anything to achieve this goal? Anyway, I'm telling you, like, I'm not here to, like, I'm not the brightest in mind that's here to, like, fucking talk about super. This is literally like me just rambling. That's it. Like, I am never going to say that this is anything but that. This is me rambling. The thoughts that I've had or been hyper, like, preoccupied with for the week. That's all. I mean, next time it might not be anything this deep. It might just be me talking about some special interest I have. Something nerdy or goofy. I don't script this. I don't plan it. I just let my thoughts go where they need to. No, well, the only way to have ethical billionaires is to, well, just not have billionaires. Or the equivalent of a billionaire. That shouldn't exist. There shouldn't be billionaires. Or the equivalent of. There's always been billionaires. You know what I mean? Billionaires have always existed. That should not exist. People that live in a place where the disparity of wealth is that high should not exist. It should not fucking exist. That's the problem. What the hell are you talking about, Froggo? People that have more than me shouldn't exist? What a fucking false equivalency. Holy shit. Yeah, because I'm talking about somebody that has like a bigger house than me. Or more stuff. That's the problem. My concern is they have more stuff than me. That's a fucking brain dead take. Literally what I'm talking about. There shouldn't be billionaires, maybe not even millionaires. Those things should not exist because the basic necessities of human beings are not being met. That's not what I'm saying. Do you listen to anything I fucking say, Froggo? Holy shit. Somebody fucking lost the plot. I'm saying billionaires shouldn't exist because of the consequences of billionaires existing. And a consequence is basic needs not being met for so many human beings on Earth. That's not revenge. Oh my god. Holy shit. You obviously don't listen to my fucking streams very much if you think that's what I'm talking about. Mother of God. Alright. Billions shouldn't exist. Thanks. You said no billionaires. That means you want to eat the rich. God. Yeah. No, the cause of why so many people suffer from poverty is the fear of death. If you've been listening to the rest of my ramblings, the fear of death is because of it. Oh man. I would like to know, Froggo, how this would be achievable. How this goal of making sure that people's needs are met could happen with billionaires of the level that we have right now existing. What, they become ethical? They make a decision to do better? You see that happening? Because that would be delusional. Oh, we just got to change the culture. We just got to change the beliefs of the average man. It'll trickle up to them. That's why I said it's not revenge. So I said something to get them to understand the amount of damage that's being caused and to give a shit. Because they might understand, or they just cope by thinking they have some goal that will ultimately like save humanity or some bullshit. That's fucking nuts. I don't think they believe they're going to save humanity. I think they believe they're going to save themselves. And they're willing to do anything to make sure that happens. I'm not reducing it to billionaires are bad. When I say a billionaire should exist, I'm referring to all those things you mentioned that ultimately lead up to things like that existing. It's one of those consequences of it. Fucking Christ. Okay. I'm done with you, Froggo. This shit's stupid. You're not making any points. You're essentially just saying like you're completely misinterpreting what that statement means when I say it. And all the context that I'm taking into consideration when that statement is being made. You're assuming I'm not integrating all that context. Mother of God. I'm not some fucking brain dead like what is it, tanky idiot that thinks that all you got to do is get rid of the billionaires and eat the rich. Because you eat the rich, it's going to be a different kind of rich. There's always going to be something. It's all. There's always been billionaires. That's kind of what I was saying. There's always been billionaires. The notion, the concept itself, is something that should be balanced out, that we do not need. And when I say there's always been billionaires, I'm not saying literally. Social democracy, slightly higher taxes to provide for a robust social safety net. Oh my God. You see that happening? Oh, Lord. All right. Yeah, we'll just vote it. We'll vote it into existence. I'm sure that'll happen. Let's just vote it into existence. Let's all just rock the vote. Just rock the vote and make that happen. Oh, Lord. No, you introduced a very, very much devoted following to perceived institution. That's all you provided. It's not logic and reason. It's your belief that the institutions will function when they haven't and likely never will. Taxes is not logic or reason. No, well, it is if the institutions are in, they're all working toward the greater good. If we're taking that into consideration, that they're all actually working toward this greater good, then obviously that's logic and reason. That's some big brain shit. Yeah, it's going great. No, it's good. It's good that they do this. It's good. Let them have their skewed belief. I have my own. Let them have this one. Yeah, it is pretty boring. Shadow, agreed. I need to stop. No, but apparently I'm the one without any nuance or complexity. Whatever. Anyway, 8:11. Oh, the music stopped and I don't really have. I mean, do you guys have anything to say about? Does anybody have any like constructive criticism about the stuff I brought up? Because that'd be great. Oh yeah, wait. Non sequiturs. You don't. I don't think you know how to spell it, but it's okay. I forgive you. I like non secular, so you'll find a lot of those in the church. Chat's just getting goofy. That's my fault. I should have just ignored it. Yeah, for real. Very heretical active research. Too much heresy on all parts. It's like SEQUITOR. I probably said it wrong. It's like all stupid. I know it's not secular though. Oh, I'm sorry, Faxon. No, I know you're being. I know you're being. I don't know if you're being like you're taking a shot at me there, and that's a fair shot. That's actually a fair shot at me. Maybe I shouldn't be talking anything remotely political at all, because that kind of shit probably just fucks with people's mental health even more. I mean, it technically ties to it because a lot of this stuff does lead to a lot of mental unwellness, especially for those that are kind of like more on the schizoid side of things. But I mean, but overall, yeah, a lot of this decision making does lead to a significant amount of mental illness. Yeah, I didn't think it was too political, but yeah, I mean, political outside of the realm of conventional politics, I guess. Oh, okay, so you're saying it is good. I know, but it made me think. Well, it could be good, but also made me think this might be a really bad idea. Nah, people aren't getting dumbed down. They've been dumb forever. We've always been dumb. Well, it's definitely a big reason I feel like shit, but that's because of my mental illness or my type, also my type of, I guess, neurodivergence, is by my feelings being too salient when it comes to the suffering this type of stuff causes. But that's more of a me problem. Ultimately, it causes a lot of harm in a variety of ways that are invisible to the people having it inflicted upon them in you know, in many forms. More dumb than usual. I don't know. Well, I'm always going to think the education system is failing if they don't do something to start teaching early metacognitive capacity at a young age, outside of the realm of don't kick people, be polite, and shit like that. Like that's as far as they take it. do what you want. You do to others what you want done to you. Yeah, that's real expansive there. And there's not even a dedicated class to this shit. It's just kind of like the most public schools have is like a dumb like acronym, some like retarded ass acronym about like being kind to your classmates. That's like the most education a child gets on those matters. The most education a child would get about any kind of empathy and the type of suffering that other people endure that might not make sense to you or you will never experience yourself. Like that's and then even like even it doesn't it's not till high school that they start getting some education on this by like they get made to read I don't know the Diary of Anne Frank or something. Like they should be being taught the banality of human evil or something like that, and why we must protect each other, why human beings must help each other thrive and learn. That's way more fucking important than math lessons. I mean, not I'm not saying they're not really important. It's just to clarify. But goddamn. And I don't mean this in a religious context because I'm not a Christian, but people need Jesus. If you catch my philosophical drift drift drip drift. I don't know why I said that. Yeah, that's the funny thing about that. I've always had like this weird kind of love hate relationship with something like TikTok because like yes, it has those problems as you're stating their facts, and but also it's like it's weirdly enough making people more metacognitive and being more people are becoming educated on corruption, like because that stuff's just not really taught even on the high school level. All they teach you is Hitler was a bad guy that wanted to kill a lot of people. Stalin was a bad guy that killed a lot of people for a lot of notions that a lot of people disagree with. Like that's like the most they teach you in public schooling about the capacity like of like corruption, with tyranny, how tyranny exists. They don't teach you about how tyranny can exist within a fucking office building. They don't teach you about that. Yeah, TikTok is like it's crazy. Like like I've seen people in my life that are not normally into like politics or world events or um a lot of like corruption and stuff. Like now, like in the last few years, like talking about it and becoming interested in it, and and then when I like talk about it with them to a more nuanced degree than whatever they got served on TikTok, they're actually like interested. So I don't mind the trend becoming educated on those subjects. One second, please. Okay. Yeah, desperation. Yeah. For real, man. Like, what if like one of like what if a class trip would be to like I don't know to like have some kind of like have like a obviously like some kind of social worker with like a live camera like walk down Skid Row and show like kids like the suffering because of like drug addiction and the poverty crisis and like show them that show them that maybe take out the parts that you don't want to show them. I don't know, but yeah, show them look people are just fucking suffering. Holy shit. That makes me sad, teacher. Ah! Good. It should. Now let's help people. Conspiracy are contrived terms meant to dissuade attention. Actual conspiracies, yeah. I don't really like. I don't know. Anyway, uh, most of my friends fall for conspiracy. Yeah, they fall for like silly conspiracy theories. Oftentimes are just kind of a distraction from like what actual fucking problems are. I feel like they're almost like a way for like a person to create something that makes more sense than like the indifference the universe and existence generally has with our lives, and that people that recognize that exploit it, and that's what lets them sleep at night while they do horrific actions. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm Dunzos. Thanks for showing up again. Please support me on Patreon. Like seriously, I don't care. Like that $5 a month, fucking amazing. Really fucking useful. Trust me. Helps, especially right now. Right now, look, I don't care. I don't care about e-begging on occasion because like I have a family. I have no shame. I don't give a shit. My fam and keeping my sanity is far more fucking important to me than how my dignity or my fucking like I don't even I've let go of those aversiveness toward like any like pure self sufficiency. Like I just so right now December is a really tough time for me financially. I do contract work, and because I do contract work, I usually rely on like vendors or other companies or whatever that employ the to give what it's to give the work to the people that employ me. And December is like the worst because all those companies are on vacation. All those like people with W-2s and everything are like getting their paid time off. I don't get any of that. I don't get paid time off. I don't do any of that. The reason I do this kind of work, if you're saying like, hey, but why don't you do this? Why don't you go work at your local, what have you? Um, a lot of the reasons I went into remote work is because of my agoraphobia issues and other stuff like that. So remote work is what works for me, but unfortunately, almost a good portion of remote work is like contract based because they hire people all over the world, and so they want to have more control over like how much they pay so and so because they're from this or that country or what have you, and they can just drop you, right? Nowadays, they tend not to do that, especially if you work for a decent company, which I guess I do. I would say so, considering the track record so far, and like ethical wise, it's not definitely not the worst I've experienced. But yeah, December. The reality is for people that do this kind of work that are self-employed, fucking December's the worst. So if you want to help out, please Patreon or PayPal. Link in the description. Okay, guys. Talk to you later. And as usual, when day is dark, always remember, happy day.